The moment Lucas Grayson stepped into the sunlit cafe, he felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in his chest. He wasn't nervous about the date itself. He had been single for nearly 5 years, ever since his wife left without explanation, leaving him with his daughter, 7-year-old Mia, as the center of his world. No, Lucas' nerves weren't about romance. They were about stepping out of the safe, protective bubble he had built around himself and his small family. The chatter of clinking coffee cups, the warm aroma of freshly baked croissants, and the sunlight spilling across the polished wooden tables couldn't mask the fear bubbling inside him. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness, because stories like this remind us that sometimes the heart finds what it's been longing for in the most unexpected ways. Lucas adjusted his worn leather jacket and smoothed the creases of his shirt. He wasn't dressed to impress anyone, but hoped that the effort he had made would at least speak volumes about his intentions. He had agreed to a blind date set up by his sister, a match she insisted was perfect. He had no illusions. He hadn't dated much since Mia was born. The last time he had gone on a proper date, he had been a different man, carefree and unburdened. Now he carried the weight of a daughter who needed him every day, the fear of failing her, and the quiet hope that he could still find love. He spotted her almost immediately. A woman sitting alone by the window, sipping tea and absorbed in a book, her presence commanding the room without any effort. Her hair was a soft chestnut brown, cascading in waves over her shoulders. Her eyes, when she looked up, held a mix of curiosity and caution, like someone who had been disappointed before but still dared to hope. That woman was Claire Donovan, a billionaire who had somehow built an empire in a world where trust was scarce and kindness often came second to ambition. She had agreed to this blind date, more out of curiosity than expectation, intrigued by the mystery of meeting someone who lived a completely different life. Lucas approached, his heart thudding loudly in his chest, as if warning him that this moment was about more than just coffee. "Hi," he said, his voice a mix of nervousness and warmth. Claire smiled politely and gestured to the seat across from her. As he sat down, he felt the eyes of the cafe patrons almost piercing through him, but he ignored them. What mattered was that he had taken a step forward, despite years of uncertainty and heartbreak. The conversation began cautiously. Lucas shared snippets of his life, working long hours as a freelance graphic designer, raising Mia, and trying to navigate a world that often seemed designed for people without children. Claire listened intently, her eyes softening as he spoke, though her posture remained elegant, poised, and unapproachable to anyone less determined than Lucas. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to correct him, simply listened, a gift few people in her position would give. Lucas noticed little things about her too, the way her fingers brushed the rim of her teacup, the faint smile when she mentioned a charity she supported, the subtle way she leaned slightly forward when she found a topic intriguing. It wasn't often that Lucas felt at ease around someone so different from himself, and yet there was a strange comfort in her presence, a feeling that this meeting was meant to happen. Midway through their coffee, a commotion erupted near the cafe entrance. A delivery truck had hit a pothole, causing a small cascade of papers and a spilled latte to scatter across the floor. Without thinking, Lucas jumped up, helping a frazzled barista gather the mess and calm the customers. Claire watched silently, her expression shifting from polite curiosity to something more profound. She saw a man who didn't hesitate to act. Who didn't pause to consider the inconvenience or the social optics, someone who led with compassion rather than calculation. When Lucas returned to the table, a little flustered but smiling, Claire's gaze met his, and something unspoken passed between them. For the first time, the conversation felt effortless, genuine. They laughed, not the polite, rehearsed kind, but the kind that bubbles up from shared understanding and unexpected connection. Weeks passed, and what began as an ordinary blind date transformed into a series of meetings, dinners, and walks in the city park where Mia's laughter echoed. Lucas never tried to impress Claire with material wealth. He couldn't. Instead, he shared his world openly, from his tiny apartment cluttered with Mia's toys to the homemade dinners they all laughed over. Claire, in turn, revealed her life behind the glossy exterior of success, the loneliness of boardrooms, the weight of expectations, and the longing for authenticity that often eluded her. The turning point came one rainy afternoon. Lucas had promised Mia a trip to the aquarium, but a sudden storm trapped them inside the small car. Mia was frustrated, clinging to her father's jacket as the rain streaked the windows. Lucas' phone buzzed, another call from Claire, but he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to Mia, calming her tears with gentle words and warm hugs. It was in that moment that Claire, watching from her office across town through a quick video check-in, realized the depth of his character. She saw a man whose love for his child was not performative, who could be patient, resilient, and completely selfless. By the time Lucas finally returned her call, Claire was smiling, heart racing. "I think," she said softly, "that I've been waiting to meet someone like you my entire life." It wasn't a confession of love, not yet, but it was close. A crack in the armor of a woman who had learned to guard her heart fiercely. One evening, Lucas invited Claire to dinner at his modest apartment. Mia had spent hours preparing a little drawing for Claire, a colorful sketch of their tiny family, complete with the smiling dog and sunshine overhead. Claire accepted it with tears in her eyes, a rare vulnerability showing through her composed exterior. "This," she whispered, "is priceless." That moment, simple yet profound, cemented the bond between them. Wealth, power, and social status had nothing to do with it. What mattered was kindness, love, and the courage to open one's heart despite the fear of hurt. The story of Lucas and Claire reached its climax unexpectedly. One weekend, Lucas' sister invited Claire to a family gathering in the countryside. As they drove down the winding road, the sun casting golden light over the fields, Claire's hand brushed against Lucas. The gesture was tentative but full of meaning. At that moment, a realization struck both of them. They were no longer two separate worlds, but a shared path forward. Mia ran ahead, chasing butterflies, and Lucas watched her, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known since his wife left. Claire's gaze met his again, filled with unspoken promises and the soft warmth of newfound love. No grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, just a quiet understanding that this was right, that they had found something rare and real. The final turning point arrived when Claire, in an uncharacteristic act of spontaneity, decided to invest in a small art program for underprivileged children, inspired by Lucas' dedication to nurturing Mia's creativity. Lucas, witnessing her choice, felt a deep admiration for her, realizing that the billionaire he had feared would be distant and unattainable was in fact compassionate, genuine, and capable of profound generosity. In turn, Claire saw a man whose humility, patience, and kindness outshone any material success she had ever known. By the time the sun set that evening, casting a golden glow over the countryside, Lucas took Claire's hand in his. It wasn't a question, nor a proposal. It was a silent vow that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Mia ran back into their arms, laughing, as if acknowledging that her father had finally found a partner who would love them both fiercely and without condition.